Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Monday, May 9th edition of the regular meeting of Kimberley City Council. Welcome, Council, and welcome to all those taking the time to sit in and watch us this evening. So we are, I guess, first off is the homeland recognition, which we like to do at every meeting. Acknowledge that we are having this meeting on the homelands of the Ktunaxa peoples. And I would like to ask Maurice if there are any late items.
There are no late items, Mr. Mayor.
All right, hearing none, could I have a mover to adopt the agenda? Councillor McBain, thank you. And Councillor Kiddo seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Next up, we have adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on April the 25th. Mover, please. Councillor McBain, thank you. Councillor Kiddo seconds. Any opposed? Motion is carried. And finally, the minutes of the special meeting of council held on May the 2nd. Mover, please. Councillor Dallum, thank you. And Councillor Kiddo seconds. Any opposed? That motion is also carried. All right, first up, following our formalities, is Sergeant Woodcox with our quarterly RCMP report. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Take it away.
So I'm here tonight to present the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2021-22. To begin with this quarter, we've had a few more files that we did the same time previously last year. Right now, we're suffering a little bit of shortage of manpower. We presently have 3 people off, so almost 30% of our manpower. So it's definitely impacted some of our more proactive work. During this fourth quarter, there were 8 impaired drivers compared to 16 last year at the same time. And I do contribute that to being short manpower. I think that's definitely cut down on some of the proactive work we've wanted to do. One thing I have noted and happened this quarter is our calls for mental health have increased considerably again. This quarter, we had 23 compared to 12 the quarter before. And even the first 2 years into this new fiscal year of April and May, we've seen that trend continue. And I think it's because people have a lot of stressors in their life. There's a lot going on. The cost of living's going up. People have added pressures on them. And that's definitely reflected on the type of calls we've had this quarter. And those are not from chronic people that usually call for mental health issues. It's new people that we've come across. And that is, of course, impacted and taken some of our time as well. But unfortunately, that is the trend right now, and hopefully we change that. But that is something I just wanted to report on. Some files of importance. We had a call in early January of a suspicious vehicle up at the ski hill, and it turned out to be a female that was in a stolen car with numerous warrants. So she was arrested, held for court the next day, and then released. We had a house fire in Skookumchuck during that period. It kind of fell outside the fire zone. Unfortunately, we lost the house, but that fire was not criminal in nature. 6 assaults during the quarter. 4 resulted in charges to Crown Council. 4 sudden deaths during the quarter. That is kind of down from what we've had before, so that's good. One thing I wanted to touch on too, we've had some of the Freedom Convoy matters occur in Kimberley. I can tell you that the organizer during that has reached out to me ahead of time and let us know when those events are going to happen, the routes, and that has actually helped us greatly in trying to resource those issues. We've had no issues during those events, but that contact with that organizer has actually helped. And like I said, helped for us to provide manpower and actually to know the routes and stuff, and maybe curb some of the interaction that the public has with that. But overall, it has not been bad. So, like I said, we have 3 people that are presently off. We have a new recruit that's been here for a few months. Hopefully, in a few months, that new recruit will be on her own and kind of help out with the resourcing that way. Again, we've had 2 more reports of child pornography. Sorry. So I think presently we have 5 open investigations in Kimberley for those. So that's concerning, but those are being investigated. As far as the ski hill, an update on that, that's still under investigation. Even after the reward, we've had some tips immediately afterwards, but nothing lately. And I just want to kind of tell the public again, we really need your help. And if there's anyone has any information to further that investigation, to please report it to us. That is one of the major investigations we have, and we would love to solve that for the community. Because we definitely know how much that has impacted everyone, but I just kind of wanted to give you an update on that. So any questions, I'd be more than happy to take them.
It's not a question, it's just more of a comment to the sergeant. You highlighted the mental health issue and just from being I was over in Kelowna last week and you can really see it. It's really prevalent. There's a lot of people out there struggling. And I just wanted to say, I know you've got manpower issues right now, but I think it's really, really important to continue on with the proactive approach that you've taken, and just a message to everybody out there in general too. Just understand, there's a lot of people right now that are struggling. I mean, there's things with the economy and whatnot, and it can really bear down on folks. A lot of us that are fortunate to maybe not have to deal with those problems on a daily basis, have to recognize that there's others out there that are really having a tough go right now. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you again and staying vigilant on that.
And one thing I want to mention to council too, the role of the police in the mental health issues is not for an enforcement thing, but rather to help people. And our obligation, our only obligation, is to take people to the medical facility to be examined by professionals. So, if someone out there is having mental health issues and need to call the police, I want people to know that we're not coming there in some enforcement matter, but rather to assist people and help to take them, if needed, to the hospital to see the professionals to get the help they need. So just one thing I wanted to add tonight for everyone.
Excellent. Thanks for the comments, Councillor McBain. Further? I have a question, and that relates to the firearms. I see we had a little bit of a spike. 5 isn't exactly rampant, but what does that mean? Kind of what are those? What does that relate to, and what is it exactly when we talk about firearm offenses?
Sorry, what was that again? The firearms?
Firearms, yeah. 2, 4, yeah, about a third of the way down.
Okay.
Down the list.
So some of those firearms may be firearms that are actually turned over to police. Some may be firearms that are reported to be used in offense. That's kind of what they're related to. Firearms may be firearms that are turned over to the police for seizure. Those are kind of entail all the firearms things.
Right. Okay. Awesome.
In those cases, the 5s were not firearms used in any commission of any offense during the quarter.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that.
Yeah, no, those, Mr. Mayor, that's a good question. And no, those weren't firearms used in any commission of offense.
Okay. Thanks for that, Steve.
You're welcome.
Councillor Dallin.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, you piqued my interest there. So these are more surrendering like an estate or something like that. Is that more
correct? Sometimes, yeah, sometimes family members, if someone's passed and they go and find out their mother, fathers have firearms, they'll turn them over to the police for destruction. Okay. So in some of those cases, that's probably what those numbers reflect.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cool.
Anything further, Council? All right, hearing nothing. Thanks so much, Steve. I appreciate you coming in this evening and for the report. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, first order of business. It's a good thing I had the microphone off on that one. First up this evening is the Alpine Resort Zoning Bylaw 2720, which is the residential bedrooms amendment. And the motion on the floor is that council approve first and second readings of the bylaw, and further that an electronic public hearing be proposed for the bylaw to be scheduled at the regular meeting of council on May the 24th. Councillor Dallin moves and Councillor McBain seconds. Discussion. Troy, did you want to kind of run us through the summary?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so this is another housekeeping amendment that we're considering for the Alpine zoning bylaw. In many of the residential zones, we have there's a specific regulation regulating the maximum number of bedrooms in a dwelling unit, and it's fairly common throughout the Alpine zoning bylaw, and it's come up a few times in the past as a bit of a, you know, I guess a bit of an obstacle, I think, for some proposals for new housing, but quite infrequent in the past. But more recently, with our implementation of the new short-term rental bylaw, it's come up a bit more often where we're finding in some of the dwelling units that are being considered for short-term rental applications, they'd like to use you know, a certain number of bedrooms and try to, you know, try to maximize their occupancy or their potential occupancy under the short-term rental requirements. And it's come up a few times in both some townhouse units and multifamily residential, but also in single family dwelling buildings as well, where they basically already have the space within the existing structure where they can renovate to create that additional bedroom. And so they're not, you know, they're not really adding any additional space or size to the structure, but just allowing for you know, more occupancy within the same structure. So. And certainly would apply for new structures as well, give some more flexibility in design and that kind of thing as well. So, so what we're recommending here is we've gone through the Alpine zoning bylaw and identified all the zones where we have that maximum bedroom restriction, and we're recommending that those be deleted, those references be deleted, and we'll still rely, of course, on all of the other regulations that apply to new construction or existing construction. So all of the setback requirements and height and, you know, in some cases, maximum building size, things like floor space ratio or maximum gross floor area, all of those rules would still apply, but it just removes the restriction on maximum number of bedrooms. So that's it for the overview there, unless there's any questions.
All right, thanks for that, Troy. Just, I guess, a clarification. I think I saw in the report here somewhere where the you know, the big deal here is getting those mostly those that are not compliant into compliance, as opposed to you know, this you know, spurring additional builds of bedrooms. I mean, those that have wanted the extra bedroom, either in the basement or the lower level, that's already been done. This will mostly bring it into conformance.
Or the space is already there. In some cases, there has been some renovations that have happened without a permit, and so it'll serve to help kind of legitimize some of these projects. Of course, there's still building code, fire code review, and everything that goes through those permit reviews. But yeah, for the most part, this is existing conditions, but it will apply to new development as well.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nigel.
But there is a provision for the maximum amount of occupants in each building, isn't there, Troy?
That's correct. Well, I mean, not typically under the zoning, but in the short-term rental bylaw, there is a maximum that's set, and not all proposals or not all proposed units and that are applying for short-term rental licenses are you know, achieving or striving for that maximum either. That a lot of it, you know, it always depends on you know, the actual layout of their units and how they can safely you know, provide for the number of occupants that they're proposing. So you know, there's quite a few that are getting approved at, you know, maximum of 6 or 8 or 10, whatever, you know, whatever the number might be. But there is an overall maximum under the short-term rental bylaw of maximum of 12. But they need to have the kind of the layout in the bedroom and the, you know, all the safety measures to support that, to get that maximum.
Further? All right, call the question on first and second reading and move to public hearing. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thanks for that, Troy.
You bet. Thank you.
Next up, we have 3 financial plan bylaws for adoption. The first is the 2022-2026 5-year financial plan bylaw. Once again, this is for adoption, and the resolution on the floor is that the bylaw 2717-2022 be adopted. Councillor Oakley moves and Councillor Goodwin seconds. Further discussion on this? Call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Next up, we have adoption of the tax rates bylaw. Bylaw number 2718, and the motion on the floor is that this particular bylaw be adopted. Mover, please. Councillor Kiddo, thank you. And Councillor Dallum seconds. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion is carried. And thirdly, we have City of Kimberley Parcel Tax Imposition Bylaw number 2279. And the motion on the floor is that this bylaw be moved for adoption as well. Councillor McBain moves and Councillor Goodwin seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? That motion is carried. All right, before we move on to the next piece of new business, was there anything, Jim, that you wanted to say with regard to the adoption of these bylaws?
No, nothing new to add, Mr. Mayor. As council is aware, this is the end of a long road. I think the first budget presentation was on August 9th. So now that the bylaws have been adopted, we'll pass them along to the province as is required by legislation, incorporate the information into the annual report, and in a couple months, we'll start all over again.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, under new business, we have the invasive plant control contract. And we have three separate motions to move here. The first is that council approve the award of the RFQ. And further, that council direct staff to prepare a 3-year exclusive contract between the city and Spectrum Resource Group, Inc. for $28,000 for 2022, $29,000 for 2023, and $30,000 for the 2024 season. This is exclusive of GST and exclusive of PST with an option to renew for up to 2 additional years. Mover, please. Councillor McBain, thank you. Second, Councillor Goodwin. All right, discussion. Councillor Kiddo.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just found the report a little thin on the ground. I understand there's only one bidder and they're known to the city. We've worked with them before. But just for the report, I would have just liked to have known a little bit about more of the details, like where, when, what. It was kind of just, yeah, like I said, just a little thin on the ground.
All right, thanks for that, Councillor Kiddo. Go ahead, Councillor Oakley.
Yeah, I also have some concern about this, not from our manager specifically. I'm just concerned about the actual methods that Kimberley is using to deal with invasive, what are referred to as invasive plants. And I'm, you know, I just don't see an end, the end game here. This is a significant cost. You know, it's 1/3 of 1% per year of our taxes, and it's just seems to never end. So I don't. I guess I have some concerns about the cost. I have some concerns about different methodologies that we might be able to use as a community that might be safer. I recognize that anything that happens here is Health Canada approved, but I still question a lot of the chemicals that are used, and do we really need to do that? So I'm not very keen on this. That's the bottom line from my perspective. I would rather see a creative way forward out of this. That's what policy.
Councillor McBain.
Yeah, I think it's just something that we just, you know, we have to kind of accept and deal with. And I think if we let our guard down, I think it just ends up being worse in the long run, and we ends up costing us more money. I you know, I don't think anybody gets too jazzed up when they hear the word herbicide or anything like that. But you know, we recognize that it is an issue around here, and there is you know, hand pulling involved in this too. So it's not just going out and firebombing everything. So I don't know, I just, it's a different perspective. I see it as just as a maintenance issue, and even though it can be frustrating and to keep up with, it's just something that, that we have to accept.
So up until, gosh, how many years ago now? With COVID, the 2 years of COVID has completely erased context and perspective around time. But it was probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6, where we were spending half this money. And there was a report that came to council to talk about the epidemic of invasive species that were upon us in the community. At that point, we doubled the amount of money up to $30,000 a year. And I think there was a recognition, and the conversation around the table at that point was that these are invasive species, and by definition, they aren't going to go away. All you can do is control. And I think at the amount of money that we're spending here right now, I think that we have found a happy medium, although as with your comment, Councillor Kiddo, I would have really liked to see a little more detail around that in the report. What has the experience been over the last 4 or 5 years? And are we winning? Are we losing? Is it about right? And I think that it would be great to get a comment from staff on kind of where we stand with that. Before we go to that, though, hang on, Nicole. Don't go away. We'll put you on the spot. Councillor Dallum had a comment as well.
Just a quick comment, but thank you, Mr. Mayor. For Councillor Oakley's information and perhaps the rest of the public, there are some exciting new or semi-new technologies being attempted and used successfully. There's a girl in Wardner that actually has a company that uses no chemicals, but basically destroys with high heat without the risk of fire. So that's Aqua Stellaria, and she has been kind of pioneering that in our area. So there are other things besides the goats as well, right? So yeah, just some exciting stuff coming that way as well.
Well, the one thing we can be sure of is that science is going to help push these things forward. It may not be in our lifetime for some of these things, but nonetheless, it is going forward. So Nicole, how about we turn this over to you for comment?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll do my best to answer some of the questions that were brought forward today. So last year, 138 sites were visited, both treated mechanically and via herbicide spray. Some things, we have been seeing some significant improvement in the industrial lands. However, it is an ongoing fighting battle. So one thing that we are focused on this year is education. So actually, just this week, we have education that will be provided by the Region of East Kootenay to help our staff identify and also learn proper manual techniques for pulling. We're also working with the Region of East Kootenay to set up a manual pulling program to reduce the amount of herbicide that's currently being used within the community and in select areas. So from what I can see, again, just being here shy of a year, I do believe the program is having a positive effect in the community. I do recognize that there is some controversy around the use of herbicides. However, I think through education and the continued commitment to the program, we may see a reduction in the invasive weeds that have found their way into the community. I think it also displays to our community partners that we are committed to finding a solution for this. So then hopefully more individual businesses and partners get on board to help reduce this in the area.
Thanks for that, Nicole. Councillor Kiddo, further.
One area that keeps on coming up in my mind because I drive past it every day is the Great Mullen Patch of the Dogleg on 4th Avenue. I remember when we were discussing that project, we were concerned about invasive weeds coming in after all the land got disturbed, and we were talking about maybe it was being spray seeded or being treated and nothing actually happened. I'm just wondering if that's on the list for invasive control for this coming year or in the next 3 years.
Through you, Mayor McCormick, to Councillor Kiddo. I certainly can verify that within the reports, but would you mind touching base with me just to confirm it so I can go back and chat with the contractor?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Kiddo. Further comment? All right, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Oakley is opposed. That motion is carried. And lastly, in this particular, on this particular item, the council authorized the chief admin officer to execute the contract with Spectrum Resource Group. Mover, please. Councillor Goodwin moves. Councillor McBain seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Oakley is opposed. That motion is carried. Thanks very much, Nicole. Next up, we have the city check run in the amount of $501,800.75 to be approved as paid. Mover, please. Councillor McBain, thank you. Second, Councillor Dallum. Any discussion? Any items council would like to point as unroutine? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. All right, that brings us to the end of a very short agenda for this evening. Before we move into councillor items, I would like to invite any members of the public that may be watching via our YouTube channel to call in with any questions or comments that relate to any of the items on the agenda this evening. That number to call is 800-741-7180. And the meeting number, when prompted, is 2484-981-4643. So give us a call, and while we're waiting to hear if we have any questions, we will do the roundtable on councillor items. All right, Councillor Dallum, how about we start with you this week?
The Trail Society is on full steam ahead. If they were going any faster, I'd be afraid people would start falling off. It's really fantastic to see all the work, and I just want to make a point to the general public that when you see that a trail is closed or has signage in such a way, that's just to reduce the amount of maintenance that'll be required later on that trail. So if we could just respect those signs and then enjoy the trails once they've dried up and gotten a little bit more stable. And otherwise, feel free to get involved in the Trail Society and maintaining those trails that we all enjoy. Besides that, my next meeting is tomorrow.
Thank you, Councillor Dallum. Nigel.
No formal meetings, Mr. Mayor, but I would like to mention a couple of things. One, thanks to Nicole and the Parks crew. Noticed the presence of city staff up at Kaminko Gardens starting the cleanup and just providing that presence up there at this time of the year, which is so important. So thanks city staff for being there while we work out the other details. And secondly, there's been some action happening down on the Legion track adjacent to the Lowers Creek trails on the private land down there, which has been raising a few eyebrows. There's been some geotechnical survey work going on that people need to be aware of. All legit. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Nigel. Jason.
Thank you. The only formal thing, just prior to this meeting, I had a meeting with the Kimberley Chamber of Commerce. I think I already brought it up, but most of the chatter is about July Fest planning. So that's moving ahead, and obviously everyone's really excited about that. One thing that did get discussed, though, and I know it was in the back of my mind after we won the contest there for the best small town. I guess there's becoming a lot of chatter within the business community about parking, and the lack thereof, I guess, and moving forward as well. So just something right now for us to get on our radar. I think all of us, it's probably on our radar already, but I think that with things such as the contest, coming out of COVID, our ski hill back up and running again. I mean, we're going to get a fairly significant influx of people, I assume, and for the foreseeable future. So it's a concern in the business community. So it's just something I figured I'd get on everyone's radar.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Councillor Oakley. Your microphone.
No formal meetings, but I just want to make a couple comments. The coverage for the best small town in BC was remarkable. And Kimberley Underground Mining Railroad folks got significant coverage. They're very, very happy with that. I saw lots of emails bouncing around and they're thrilled. So I'm really happy to report that, because those are all volunteers and they work very hard. So they certainly earned that. The other comment I wanted to make is I walked through Lois Creek area with is it Greg? I can't remember his name. Greg? Yeah. While they're doing the test holes. So those test holes are for testing the soil and testing water, everything. So they did quite a few. They were quite busy there and lots of people were wondering. So just a reminder to everybody that it is, when there's equipment in there, they have to be cautious because it is private land. And they are being very gracious by allowing people to still hike through there. And the other piece I wanted to mention is that Purcell Golf and the Jim Ritchie Trail, so that trail is no longer down on the St. Mary's River edge. And again, that is private land. So people have been infringing on private land. They have to actually stay out of there, and there's heavy equipment there as well. So the plan is not set yet, but the Jim Ritchie Trail is probably going to be realigned somehow. They are working on it, but Purcell Golf folks, Duncan and everybody. So anyway, again, private land. So people have to respect that. It's private land. So anyway, I just wanted to mention those few items.
All right. Thanks, Daryl. Kent.
Yes, I had one health center society meeting since our last meeting. We had a delegation from the primary care network come and talk about their plans to expand health services in Kimberley, and a brief discussion about where they were going to put it all, because we don't have a lot of space that's usable right now in the health center, but we'll slowly work our way through that. Our radon mitigation in the basement will be starting in May, and a bunch of work will be done to make sure that we have good air quality down there. We have our new building manager is coming on board May 15th. We have a new director that just joined the board, and hopefully one or two more in the works. We'll be meeting with the fire chief and the building inspector in the next week or two to talk about the lower level and what might need to be improved down there as far as fire goes and access, because we are getting more and more tenants in that part of the building. So we want to make sure we do things right. We have reached out to the CBT nonprofit advisor program, the Basin Business Advisor program, and Community Futures to see about getting some partnerships that would allow us to develop the third floor. We may not be acceptable from the nonprofit advisors program, but we are still working on the business advisors and the Community Futures. We'll see what happens there. And apparently the city is planning to move the files out of our basement storage room sometime in the next little while. We have been storing a bunch of files for the city there, and we'll clean that room out and see if we can put it on the market. If anybody's interested in a dark, dingy, 1,500 square foot space with no windows, it could be a beautiful something. We just have to figure out what. Anyway.
Mushrooms.
Could grow mushrooms, storage, who knows? It's, you never know till you ask, and then sometimes you get the most amazing creative ideas. So,
Yeah, no kidding.
so it's worth asking. So, and that's it.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Kent. It's really great to see the movement that's happening. After so many years of just talking about something, it's great to see movement. Great work on that. I'll just mention a couple of things. First of all, to echo Councillor Oakley's comment about the CBC coverage for the best small town in BC. It was nothing short of spectacular. The contest itself was great leading up to that, but once we were announced on Friday morning that we were the winners, that day, right from 7:45 until about 9 o'clock that evening, was just nothing but nonstop promotion for the city of Kimberley. It was pretty spectacular and well done. It wasn't just in passing. It was just high quality work that the CBC did on this. Now, you know, it's interesting. The Chamber of Business is talking about, you know, hopefully what will be a spike in activity this summer after the absolute crappy winter we had as a result of that ski lift being down. Getting a spike over the course of the summer is going to enable a lot of the businesses in town to make up some lost ground over the course of the winter. And we can only hope that we have a significant spike over the course of the summer. I think that we all need to put our heads together on this, because the fact is we have a finite amount of space in our downtown area, and we can complain about parking all we want, but there is a finite amount of space, and there's not a lot of options except to get people to leave their cars at their accommodation, use the Peak to Platzel Trail or bikes or some other way of getting into the downtown area. And I think there are some opportunities that that we may have around promoting the walkability that we have in the community, and turn this into a positive, as opposed to you know, what at first blush might be something negative. So we'll have to, as I said, put all of our heads together and work on that over the next little while. Pardon me. The majority of the last couple of weeks I've spent talking to the major accommodators that we have in town, trying to understand the dynamic associated with what happened this winter, what reservations look like for the summer, promotions that are going on, and what we're doing to try and make up lost ground as a result of the lift being down this past winter. I've also spent a fair amount of time talking to the dozen or so developers that we have investing in the community, trying to understand what it takes to move their projects forward. And it was all, I'll spare you the details. I'm happy to talk about them if anybody wishes, but there's just so much positive happening that, you know, despite this really difficult winter we've got a lot of positive things going on. Okay, with that, Maurice, do we have anybody who is curious about anything we talked about this evening?
We have no callers.
Okay, awesome. We do have one item in camera this evening. So with that, I would ask for a mover to move in camera. Councillor McBain, thank you. And Councillor Kiddo seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. All right, we will take a 2-minute break. Thanks, folks, for listening in to our short meeting this evening. Thank you, staff, for your attendance. And we will move in camera.